not there's not cannon fire going on outside my door. That's some very obnoxious C-rap music that the person's got the bass turned down as far as they possibly can to shake the windows and shake the pictures off my walls and everything. So just the devil telling me that I'm not welcome in his world, and all of that total disregard for courtesy and total disregard for other people, you know, that other people might not want to hear that crap. So there's only a very few songs I like Danger by Mystical and Which You Know by T.I. and a couple of others. I like Heaven Bound by DC Talk. So, but it amazes me that people wonder why people get capped and everything. You know, they're just so inconsiderate, and it's just like dogs that'll hump each other in front of you. They look at you like you're the one that's stupid. When I worked at the front desk at the hotel, one morning, 12:30 in the morning, I saw this car out front, and it was rocking, and it wasn't even these people's car. The guy had bent this lady over doggy style on the hood of the car and was going at it like gangbusters. Literally. I opened up the door. I said, inappropriate, folks. That's inappropriate. This is a family hotel, you know. And you can play pig in the poke someplace else, or else I got to call the popo. What's up, Hawaii? Unalawa Oamaka. Yeah. So I used to go to a Pentecostal church, and you'd hear people, Unalawa Mokapaka, Makalakapaka, blah, 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 you know. So this guy had this video that they uploaded to me, and he's like, he's gonna fight the devil, and he's like, devil, blah 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 blah, like that. And see, the devil is not afraid of that. The devil is not afraid if you go to church. He's not afraid if you talk in the palaver jabber, jibby jabber, untie my bow tie, and who stole my Honda, because it's not scriptural. The day that the apostles were talking in tongues, they were talking in literal tongues. For example, I don't know what the languages were called back then, but one would be speaking Hebrew, the other Aramaic, and so on and so forth. They were literal tongues. And then interpretation was literal interpretation. Like if I walked into a church in France and the pastor was up front and he says, Il est très bien, mon père. Il est très bien, mon père. And I tap somebody on the shoulder, not speaking French. I said, pardon me, but what did he just say? And the other guy would say, the pastor said, you are very good, my father. You are very good, my father. He was praising the Lord. That's tongues. That's interpretations. It's not where somebody said blah, 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 and rolls around on the floor like they're possessed and flails about and all. Uh, that's called a Kundalini spirit. That's not the spirit of the one true living God through the power of the Holy Ghost. So I went to a church where they spoke in tongues. My sister and I would be at the altar. We usually prayed before and after the homeless ministry, protection going down to the homeless ministry and that kind of thing. And my sister would pray in perfect Mandarin, colloquial Chinese. And she would pray in perfect Hebrew. And so I'm praying and I'm listening to my sister. She's like, Sishued Yerushalayim Giluva. Sishued Yerushalayim Giluva. And so I have a memory. My father used to call me Sony because I would get in trouble, what people would say would be like an imprint on my mind. And one day I was walking back from school and the neighbor pulled over and offered me a ride. And I told the woman, I said, oh no, my mom wouldn't want me to get in a car with you because she says you drive like a maniac. So the lady came over and wanted to thump my mom's behind. She was insulted and hurt and offended and all of that other stuff about my mother saying, don't get in the car ever with the crazy lady, who drives like a maniac. And the lady was very nice. She was in a marriage to a guy from overseas. My neighborhood rented houses to the government, and a lot of the people were at NIH getting treatment, or they were spies, or a whole bunch of different government things going on. And the lady married a guy who was very legalistic, part of the religion of peace. And she went from being a fancy free American to having to wear a burqa and cover herself except for her eyes like a little Miss Pac-Man. And she quite literally became miserable. And the guy was very frugal. And he would buy used old cars for her to drive. So her thing was, when she started the car up, she would just hold the gas pedal to the floor and, to start the car. And we would duck in our house because we expected a piston to come flying through the window at any minute. And the car, especially in the wintertime, couldn't stand being started cold and over revved. And so she'd blow that engine up or ruin that transmission. And the guy would get her another old car. And he got her this 62 Buick Invicta, one of the ugliest cars I've ever seen, in tan on tan, one of the most drab colors. But it was showroom perfect. Very obviously an old man had owned it who kept it in the garage, and it was his baby, and he waxed it every day and all that. Just showroom new. And she destroyed that car in about 6 months, playing the blow the engine up game and all that with her husband. And very sadly, she tried to off herself And so they had to move, and all that other mess. I never kept up with her, but it was a shame. She was nice. She was a nice lady. And for you young people, when the religion of peace takes over in America after the Christians are gone, and Slow Joe has said that the Christian white male is the enemy of America, and that we're more of a threat to America than Al Qaeda, But after the rapture happens and we're gone, I guarantee you that the new government will have the religion of peace be a cudgel to keep everybody in line. I'm competing with this god-awful racket outside, so maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. It sounds like somebody kicking my door every couple of seconds. So that beat is that powerful. And the thing that's ironic about rap music and low frequency noise is that the government did experiments in the 60s using low frequency noise to agitate people and to, cause civil unrest and all. So they've blended all of this stuff into our society. They blended all this stuff into our society to keep people at each other's throats and to keep everything unpleasant and at a boiling point. I was raised in America where you would never march out in the street and say that you were a socialist, which is nothing but communism with a little bit of lipstick on the pig. You would never march in the street with a red and black flag, which by the way are not only the socialist colors, they're also the color of the devil, red and black. My father put in a black and white tile floor when I was coming up. And I said, well, Buck, you've just put in the symbol of the Illuminati, the enlightened ones. He was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, black, white, it's yin and yang, good and evil, And he had no idea the symbolism that he brought into the home with all of his idolatry and everything else. We had all of the Egyptian gods, Horus, Bast, Ra. We had the mother-child reunion. We had Buddha. I'm surprised that lightning didn't strike our house when I was a kid. But my born-again sister came to live with my father, and Buddha kept getting dropped on the floor and broken and then glued back together. And his legs were broken and his hands were broken and his arms were broken. Then finally he wound up in the trash where he belonged. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody outright, but the deal with the minor religions, the children of lesser gods, is that at the Tower of Babel, when man decided to build a tower whose heights would reach into the heavens and keep them from being wiped out in the flood again in man's arrogance, God came down and he said, if man is all in one, he'll be able to do whatever his evil desires get him to do. So he says, we'll go down and confuse the languages. So that's where Babel came from, was the Tower of Babel. And men were worshiping the creature more than the creator back then. And so God was like, you want to worship a monkey? Be a monkey. And that's where you get your chimeras from. You get chimeras, and I believe they really did exist. And people prayed to them, and they were cursed by God. But like I said, those were called the children of lesser gods with a small g. They were not children of the one true living God, El Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, the top of the heap, the God with the big G. And then you had angels that saw the daughters of men. They were attracted to their hair, and they came down, they left their heavenly estate. And see, there's a oh gosh, I forget the word for it. It's similar to a placenta, where there's a barrier between heaven and earth, where you can't go into heaven as a mortal, and you can't come to earth, as a heavenly being. You need a bodysuit. So when these fallen angels looked down on the daughters of men and decided to come down and mate with them, that's where you got your giants, your mighty men. And so to keep their daughters from being snatched away by these demons, they covered their hair. That's where the burqa and the other covering for women's hair came from. And it's historically accurate that it did happen, but it's not necessary now, because we don't have demons coming away to snatch women off and marry them as yet. I believe that since the Pope is talking about making aliens from space into future Catholics, that they know something, and that they're getting ready to spring it on us. We've already been through so much in this world that now when I watch Monkey Works, or I watch NY Prepper Tonight, and they're just streaming emergency action messages, which is to our submarines and our BOMBERS flying over, every place, getting ready to fry everybody at the touch of a button. It's something we've lived with so long that we're just, I wouldn't say we're immune to it, but how can you be scared for so long until it just doesn't make you so hardened to the facts? Things that happened a year ago that we would have been stunned now are commonplace. Somebody eating another person's foot, or eating their face, or pushing them off a subway platform into a moving train and thinking nothing about it. I'm going to pull my blanket up. The air conditioner, the thermostat sticks on the thing, and it'll either try and roast me or freeze me out. So, and it never happens till I make a video. So the air conditioner is trying to freeze me out. I'm not doing a Jeffrey Tubin off camera or anything like that. So it's funny. It's funny that the last time I was in the hospital, they sent a very nice young Catholic priest, Father Mick so and so, and he came down and he wanted to give me a little bit of comfort and give me the last rites and make sure that I was good, so that if I didn't make it, if I didn't pull through, that I would be in the good Lord's good graces. And by the way, Sonny, here a 28-year-old boy is calling a 70-year-old man Sonny. And by the way, Sonny, you don't happen to jiggle your pickle or choke your chicken, or he didn't say that. He said the M word, you know. And of course, I'm in an emergency room surrounded by all these people. And I'm like, Father, come on, really now? I'm 70 years old and you're asking me if I'm jerking my gherkin or choking my chicken or slapping my salami. Or I said, the kitchen has been closed for many, many years, you know. Oh, we just want to make sure. We want to make sure that we're in the state of grace, don't we? I'm like, you're just like focused. You know, get your mind off of that. You focused on people rolling the dice, you know. Isn't there something else that we can talk about? You know, when I was a kid, I was coming down the street really fast, and I had souped up my bike to where the thing would do like 30 or 40 miles an hour easily, coming down the slight decline of Custer Road with the highway at the end. And I had put a generator on the back wheel of the bike with 2 headlamps. And so one evening I'm coming down the road about 40 miles an hour, and the generator was really going and the lights were bright, and the car coming towards me was flashing his lights desperately. Turn off those high beams, you know. And it turned out it was a bicycle. But the guy's flashing his lights desperately that he's getting blinded, you know, at 6:30 at night in the dusk, you know, by lights on a bicycle. And I thought about that when I worked at the Dodge dealership, because this old lawyer who was 90 years old came in, and his son decided to treat him to an automobile. And so being very practical and being very customer oriented, I said to myself, if I sell this old guy, you know, a little teeny car, he's going to get whacked, you know, and end up taking a dirt nap. So I don't want to sell him too big a car or too small a car, but I want to sell him something that will survive an accident. So I sold him this very sexy silver Dodge Avenger with the auto startup, where you get next to the car in the wintertime and it starts itself up and it warms up and turns the stereo on and all of this other crap for you. Before you get in the car, the heater or air conditioner's on, engine's running, doors are locked, stereo's playing. All you got to do is get near the car with your key fob. So I take the I take the old man out on a test drive in the evening, and he's like, Will, where do you want me to go with the car? I said, just drive it around for a little bit, get used to the car. He says, well, should I drive between those two motorcycles? I said, Mr. So-and-so, those aren't two motorcycles. Those are headlights on the truck. And if you try and drive between the two headlights, you know, you're going to get us KILLED'd. So I'm like praying to God that we can get back to the dealership and you know, get everything wrapped up. So long story short, a few days go by and he says he can't get into the car. And what it is that the computer system learns from the customer, from the person who's driving the car. You got to do the same thing every day where you unlock the door and all this. And the deal was that the man was so inconsistent in the way he used the car that the security system got suspicious and locked him out of the vehicle and wouldn't let him start the car. So I was like, OMG, you know, that didn't occur to me. I tried to think about every possible, you know, scenario with this guy. So I showed him how you take the key. It has to be the original key fob. You turn the ignition on and wait for it to ding, 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 and then all the lights go out. You do that 3 times and it resets the security system. So then the car started right up and, you know, he's good to go. And because I was good about reading the manuals with everything. I was good about reading the manuals. When I worked for KTK, Dodge van came in and it would not start. It had been taken on trade. Beautiful van, custom van. And so it wouldn't start. And they're pouring gasoline down the carburetor and all that other stuff. I went over to the vehicle, opened up the driver's door, and I clicked the headlight button on the floor. And the van started right up. I said, didn't it occur to you all that the van's got a high-low dimmer switch on the column, and then it's got a dimmer switch on the floor? I said, that's a fake out. When you're getting ready to get out of the van, you just click the dimmer switch on the floor and it disconnects the ignition system. And most people won't think and put 2 and 2 together that if it's got a dimmer switch on the column, why do you need the one on the floor? I was always very logical like that. And they're like, wow, you know, wow. But it's like when I worked at CompUSA, I had the leading sales for the over-the-phone small business sector of the company. My last month, I was trending towards $100,000 in sales. And my boss came over to me in the break room, gave me a free piece of pizza and put his hand over my head and said, you know, Will's going to be employee of the month and all of that other stuff. And I wasn't a prick or a snob. I always helped like the ladies get their computers down from the top shelves of the warehouse. You know, you got to climb this rickety ladder and get the computer down from 30 feet up in the air. And I would do that for the ladies so that they didn't have to have a a miscarriage coming down the ladder or anything like that. I helped out my teammates. But I looked over my desk and it said price and availability. And they would get on the intercom in the morning. Price and availability, log on, please. Tech department, log on, please. Corporate, log on, please. So I said, my login is the same as the sign over my desk. So that must mean every login in the store is going to be the sign over the desk. So I take my terminal and I type in corporate. And then I type in the boss's first name. I go, corporate Bob. And it goes, and it only gives you 3 tries. So I struck out on corporate, but then I said, well, I'll try and log in as one of the techs. So I type in tech Pete. The guy's name was Pete. It goes beep and it's up. And I'm like, wow, with this login, I can build a system. I can give a quote. I can do all of this other stuff. And so, long story short, I would give people a quote over the phone, and then I would tell them, you just take the quote to the tech department and have it changed from a Q to an S. And you don't have to go through the rigmarole of telling everybody twice what you want. They'll build the system. And man, the sales for the store skyrocketed. Tech was so busy, they couldn't keep up with building all the units. And then the other thing I did was when somebody called about a product, they said, if it's the last one, don't sell it because you don't know if you have it. I'm like, that's dumb, because you wind up with a whole batch of one-ofs that you can't sell once the product becomes old. So my thing was like, if somebody asked about the last of something, I would go and get it and put it away until the customer called for it when they came in. Sold a lot of stuff that way. And then the other thing that I did was I wrote a manual of all of the possible keystrokes in their system, because they used a very old database for a computer store. They used a DOS 3.10. They didn't use Windows, and they were a computer superstore. And they used DOS 3.10 and WISE terminals. Very ancient technology. So there was a game called End Times, and every time you typed in end, it would shut the system down. So I wrote a hack that got around that to where you could get the game and not shut the terminal down. And I wrote it in this manual, which they dressed up and circulated later. I'm sure under somebody else's name who got the credit. And so I decided that if my store didn't have a product, I would log into the other area stores and drop ship the product to my customers. So I became the workstation expert for the company. You know, when they wanted to wire an office or something like that, you know, you talk to Will. And my thing was, I would just go from one department to the other, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and then sell this great big system that nobody else had the patience to sell. And then one day my boss came and he said, Will, we got to talk. Never good when the boss says that. So I said, what's up? He said, you're making too much money, and they've decided to give you a raise, but take away the commission. So they changed my money to $8.45 an hour they came up with. He said, well, what do you give me your input. What do you think? I said, buy. He said, what? I said, buy. So I went and I got a job someplace else. I loved working at CompUSA. It was a lot of stress because everything was new back then. And I wrote a program, a sales management program. And I tried to get it marketed through Avery, got in touch with the lawyer. Avery sent me a letter that they would give me like $50 and I would sign away the rights to my program. I was like, you got to be kidding. So Avery ExecuFile never got off the ground. The lawyer looked at it and said it was excellent. I had to carry this great big computer system down to the lawyer's office to demonstrate it. But Avery said they weren't going to pay a bunch of stuff. What's up, Freddie? I have to take my medicine. You can hear the beeper going off in the background. When you get to be my age, it's like a pill about every 45 minutes to stay alive, a pill, and new diapers every 3 hours, new diapers and old people bed pads. Ever since that guy decided to sneak up behind me and punch me in the spine that night. So if any of you want to be a blessing, get a blessing, donate to my diaper fund and my old people piddle pad fund. My Amazon link and my PayPal link is in the description box. I want to thank Justin Johnson for sending me the jingle-lingle. It came in very crucial. It was just like when you think, God, I'm at this dead end. What am I going to do? And fam, there are no dead ends with God. I found out. Even though I'm going through this horrible trial of pain with my hip, and I thank Matt Lyons for sending me the TENS unit, because it knocks the pain down from a 10 to about an 8, to where I'm not bouncing off the walls. And Laura would send me diapers. Some people stopped following me because they didn't like what I had said about the marches that we're having all around the world, and the dreams that I've had about Islam becoming the rule of law, which it will. After the rapture happens, Islam will become the rule of law. I'm so sorry for you young people, because you're being railroaded in every possible way by these feckless octogenarian politicians. We went from 4 years of peace and plenty with Orange Man bad, and then they decided to kick him out, and we got Mr. Burns, who can't even find his way onto the platform, has got us involved in the better part of 5 WARS. And fam, the thing that you want to do as a young person, you want to get the word doctor put in front of your name. Get that $349 University of Phoenix degree so you can put the word doctor in front of your name. Because in our society, as most, they always put the grunts into the meat grinder of the WAR first. And they hold back the college kids and the politicians' kids and the kids from doctors and lawyers. They hold them back as the brain trust. But everybody else Everybody else they feed into the meat grinder. I guarantee a conscription will come in a couple of years in America. I'm so sorry for you young people because you mean well. You're out in these marches and you want what you've been told is right. But what you don't know is when Islam becomes rule of law in America, and there are already no-go zones in America, in New York and in Minnesota. You can't go there if you're a non-Muslim and make it out alive. I'm sorry. But if you think it's going to be different here in America, where you're still going to be able to march in a pride parade when Muslims are throwing homosexuals off the tops of buildings over in the Middle East and Pakistan, all that stuff will be coming here. Women, I'm sorry for you. They're not going to want you to drive a car. They're not going to want you to vote. They're not going to want you to be educated. You're going to have to wear a covering over your head with just your eyes popping out. And the thing that I don't understand about that, people come to America for freedom and choice and all, and then they go right about setting to make America into the same toilet that they just escaped from. I'll never understand that. And how young people, you're for Native Americans getting their land back. You're for African Americans finally getting what they were promised. You're for Hispanic Americans getting their land back, which turned into the southern part of America. And Texas has been under six different flags. I believe that when America breaks apart in the coming years, that Texas will go back to being its own country with Donald Trump as president of New Texas. I believe that the Russians will take back Alaska. I believe it's going to be a rough ride for you young people. I'm sorry. I've already had the dreams that have shown me how things are going to be. It says in the Bible, in the last days, young men will have visions and old men will dream dreams. I guess it's that way because old men spend most of their time asleep. But the thing is, you got to get born again so that you don't get left behind for the tribulation. And if you do, don't take that mark. It's better to be martyred and to spend eternity with God rather than to take that mark and be lost and separated from God forever. So there's no sitting on the fence. Isaiah said, I have created the destroyer to fan the coals of destruction. The Bible in that verse is using the illustration of a blacksmith and his bellows, where he blows air onto the coals to get them red hot in order to, bang out horseshoes and stuff like that. What the Bible is saying is there's no sitting on the fence. It's like if you decide not to pay your electric bill, one day you come home, your electric will be off. Same thing with the kingdom that's coming. If you don't make your decision for Christ and you don't want to be with Christ and live a life that glorifies and pleases him, what makes you think that in the tribulation, when Madonna and all of her group are leading thousands of people into the pits of hell with her music and her idolatry and everything, what makes you think that you're going to resist that and love on God when you don't have any food in your belly and you don't have any way to pay the rent unless you take the mark of the beast? So the time to get saved is now. Another reason to get saved is you are cannon fodder for the enemy. But if you get saved, you come under the wing of God's protection. So unsaved people, you are very much on your own right now, and you need to get saved while you have the chance. I love you all. I care about you all. I'm grateful for those of you that helped me out with diaper fund and old people piddle pads and preparation H and all of that other god awful disgusting stuff that you have to use when you get my age. You have to have eye drops and ear drops and nose drops and all of that other stuff. But I do appreciate it. I love you. Poppity Pops out.